a world that often celebrates the loudest voices and the quickest judgments, the ancient wisdom of Stoicism reminds us that true strength lies not in lashing out, but in self-control. As the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius taught, our power resides in mastering our own reactions, not controlling external events. One of the most profound ways we can exercise this power is by knowing when to stay calm and silent in the face of people who try to provoke us or pull us down to their level. Just as Stoicism advises training ourselves to pause between an event and our response, we must also learn when not to immediately react to difficult people, but to respond thoughtfully at the right time. In this video, we'll explore 12 toxic personality types that we should avoid getting dragged into conflict with, but rather approach with stoic patience and non-reaction. By maintaining our silence and integrity in the face of their provocations, we deny them the drama and attention they crave, while preserving our own equilibrium. Thank you for watching and enjoy. Number 1. The Drama Queen. In the words of the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. Stoicism teaches us not to get swept up in exaggerated emotional reactions, but rather to respond to life's difficulties and inconveniences with reason, perspective, and calm. The drama queen fails miserably at this Stoic ideal. They embellish even minor problems into catastrophic tragedies. Where the Stoic would keep an even keel, the drama queen flies off the emotional handle. Stoicism says we should focus only on what we can control, our own reactions and responses, rather than complaining about what we can't control. But the drama queen does the opposite, fixating on situations they can't control and blowing them out of proportion with hysterical theatrics. As a Stoic, you must not get caught up in the whirlwind of drama. Remind yourself that most things are not as dire as the drama queen claims. Respond with wisdom, not exaggerated emotion. As Marcus Aurelius advised, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When the drama queen tries to pull you into their vortex of exaggerated crises, resist. Stay calm and keep perspective. Focus on responding thoughtfully, rather than reacting emotionally. The drama queen may try to suck you into their alternate reality, but as a Stoic, you know that true power lies in controlling your own perceptions and judgments. Number 2. The know-it-all. We all know that person who thinks they know everything about everything, even topics they have no experience with. The know-it-all is so overconfident in their intelligence that they can't imagine they might ever be wrong. The know-it-all will confidently share their expert opinions at length without being prompted. Even in the face of clear evidence that contradicts them, they will stubbornly cling to their viewpoint. Their excessive pride leaves no room for admitting mistakes or considering other perspectives. When you try to correct a know-it-all or offer a differing opinion, they will condescendingly lecture you like a professor teaching a clueless student. Even if you have direct professional or educational experience in the topic at hand, the know-it-all will insist they understand it better. The know-it-all's stubborn arrogance prevents them from truly learning. They mistakenly think they already know everything, so they close themselves off to new information or correction. Don't waste your breath trying to reason with them or convince them through logic. The know-it-all cares more about being right than expanding their knowledge. Rather than fruitless arguments, it's best to simply nod, change the subject, or politely exit the conversation when faced with a relentlessly pontificating know-it-all. They may think they have all the answers, but your calm self-restraint shows true wisdom. Number 3. The flip-flopper. The flip-flopper is someone whose opinions, loyalty, and commitments constantly shift like the wind. One day they feel one way, the next day they are totally opposed. You never know which side of an issue the flip-flopper will land on next. A flip-flopper's inconsistency makes them extremely unreliable. You can't depend on where they stand or how they'll react because it could change at any moment. Planning and collaborating with a flip-flopper is frustrating because the ground is always shifting under you. When confronted about their changing stances, the flip-flopper will deflect responsibility. They'll claim they never really felt that way or that they were somehow misunderstood. A flip-flopper hates accountability for their fickleness. The flip-flopper's lack of conviction and tendency to sway wherever the wind blows means they often fail to follow through. Don't depend on a flip-flopper for stability, commitment, or results. They may say one thing but do another when the pressure is on or a better offer comes along. Rather than relying on the flip-flopper's word, pay attention to their actions over time. Do they consistently demonstrate follow-through and loyalty, or do they flake under pressure? Build relationships with those who are steady in their values and beliefs instead of swinging in the breeze. Number 4, the extremist. The extremist sees every issue in black and white. For them, there is no middle ground or room for compromise. The extremist adamantly believes there can be only one right side, theirs, with no allowance for nuance or exception. Extremists come out guns blazing no matter how small or innocuous the topic. Everything gets blown up into an epic battle of absolutes. Simple conversations turn into heated arguments. Their intense, all-or-nothing rigidity leaves no space for seeing shades of gray. When challenged, the extremist will dig in even more stubbornly. They cannot handle any critique of their position, seeing it as a dire attack. Extremists divide the world into with us or against us. If you're not fully on board, you're the enemy. Don't get sucked into the whirlpool of the extremists' single-minded intensity. Refuse to accept their false dichotomy that there are only two extreme sides. Calmly point out the areas of complexity they are ignoring. If needed, simply withdraw rather than feeding their fanaticism with equally heated opposition. The extremists' inability to compromise or see nuance makes progress difficult. Stay balanced in your views rather than being pulled to their fringes. Moderation and flexibility move solutions forward. Rigidity at all costs does not. Number 5, the stubborn pessimist. The stubborn pessimist has a doom and gloom attitude that casts an Eeyore-like cloud over everything. No matter the situation, they insist the outcome will be terrible and failure is guaranteed. Trying to get the stubborn pessimist to consider a more positive perspective is futile. They adamantly reject any evidence that contradicts their negative assumptions. Even concrete proof of success won't sway their certainty that catastrophe awaits. The stubborn pessimist shoots down every solution or plan you propose with endless reasons why it's hopeless and won't work. Their negativity acts like a wet blanket over any sparks of inspiration or optimism. When you try to boost the stubborn pessimist's morale, they resist and double down on their dreary outlook. They take perverse pride in playing the role of naysayer and wet blanket. Don't let the stubborn pessimist's gloom and doom drag you down. Just because they insist on failure doesn't mean you must accept it too. Remind yourself of times when perseverance paid off despite pessimistic predictions. Stay positive and open-minded, not closed off and cynical. The stubborn pessimist may refuse to see the possibilities, but that doesn't mean you should too. Maintain an uplifting, solutions-focused attitude instead of being pulled under by their vortex of negativity and defeatism. Hope floats. Don't let them sink it. Number 6, the hostile joker. We all know that person who uses humor to passive-aggressively attack others and put them down. The hostile joker's comedy comes at the expense of those around them. It's less about making people laugh and more about belittling their target. The hostile joker loves disguising insults as jokes. Their punchlines constantly pick at people's insecurities and sensitive spots. But if you object to their brand of mean-spirited humor, the hostile joker accuses you of being too sensitive and unable to take a joke. The hostile joker will often make demeaning jokes about marginalized groups as well. When called out, they defend themselves saying they're just being ironic or that it demonstrates how unprejudiced they are. But true wit does not need to tear people down. Do not encourage the hostile joker by laughing at their veiled antipathy or bigotry. A smile or chuckle tells them their passive-aggressive attacks are acceptable. Instead, calmly call out the intention behind their seemingly light-hearted ridicule. Explain why their comedy creates harm, even if unintended. The hostile joker's brand of humor seeks superiority, not levity. Don't empower their passive-aggressive bullying and exclusion. Promote comedy that brings people together, not divides. Number 7. The pedant. The pedant obsesses over minor details, technicalities, and following rules to the letter. They can't see the forest for the trees. They've got their nose so close to the bark they miss the big picture. The pedant insists on perfectionism and over-analysis to the point of diminishing returns. They will stubbornly argue semantics or dwell endlessly on mundane minutiae, rather than focusing on the overall goal. Discussion descends into the weeds, and important priorities get lost. When collaborating with a pedant, progress grinds to a crawl. They insist on endlessly fine-tuning insignificant aspects well past the point of necessity. Perfect becomes the enemy of done. The pedant also loves citing irrelevant rules and regulations just for the sake of compliance, even if they don't make sense for the situation. Don't get tangled in their dogmatism. Feel empowered to respectfully challenge rules that seem counterproductive. To work effectively with a pedant, learn to redirect their nitpicky perfectionism towards more impactful priorities. Appreciate their eye for detail in the right context, but don't let it derail progress. Gently pull them back to see the bigger picture. The grand vision should not get drowned out by narrow focus on trivial details. Number 8. The flatterer. The flatterer showers people with effusive praise and compliments. According to them, you have no flaws or faults. You're an absolute genius, expert, and sensation in their eyes. While their praise seems gracious on the surface, it is insincere and agenda-driven. The flatterer expects something in return for their over-the-top adulation. They use excessive flattery to manipulate people or curry favor. The flatterer's praise also tends to be vague and generic rather than specific feedback. They say you're amazing without citing what exactly you did well. It's just broad compliments without substantive foundation. When working with a flatterer, recognize their inflated acclaim for what it is, a means to an end rather than sincere appreciation. Thank them politely for the kind words, but don't get pulled into reciprocating unless the praise is warranted. Rather than basking in their sycophantic praise, focus on concrete ways to improve your skills. Offer sincere compliments to others only when merited. Build relationships based on truth, not empty flattery and manipulation. Number 9. The zealot. The zealot is so fanatically convinced of their beliefs that they cannot tolerate any other perspectives. Their devotion is both excessive and close-minded. Zealots believe that their opinion is absolute truth. Therefore, anyone who disagrees must be ignorant or evil. There is zero room for thoughtful disagreement or nuance in the zealot's mind. Arguing with a zealot goes nowhere. Any critique of their views is met with righteous indignation and accusations rather than rational discourse. They attack dissenters as enemies of the right cause. When collaborating with zealots, tiptoeing around their dogmatic intensity quickly becomes exhausting. Any suggestion outside their rigid conformity gets shot down. Progress requires openness. Their unbending bias obstructs it. Rather than wasting breath in pointless arguments, prioritize connection over conversion with zealots. Find common ground in shared values versus polarized positions. Model openness by asking questions and acknowledging valid points in their perspective. While zealots may not reciprocate, maintaining patience and understanding prevents further polarization. Progress emerges through good faith exchange, not self-righteous conflict. Number 10. The martyr. The martyr makes every minor inconvenience out to be a major sacrifice on their part. They perform routine acts of kindness or favors, but then beat the drum of self-praise for their altruism. The martyr frames basic decency as going above and beyond. They want you to see them as long-suffering and noble for things most compassionate people would do without fanfare. Beware when a martyr says, "It's fine, I don't mind," during a favor. That's code for, "I'm going to guilt trip you later for being so burdened." Sure enough, the martyr will later moan loudly about how much they've given. When working with a martyr, don't feed into their melodramatic need for validation. Give sincere thanks for their help, but don't go overboard fueling their ego. Redirect conversations away from their selflessness and onto more positive subjects. Avoid accepting favors from a martyr if they expect applause rather than intrinsic reward. Say no firmly but politely. Genuine sacrifice comes from the heart, not ulterior motives of martyrdom. Number 11. The sage wannabe. Beware the person who believes they are a modern-day oracle, overflowing with profound wisdom and philosophical insight. The sage wannabe considers themselves a wellspring of truth and virtue, whose sage pronouncements should guide the lives of others. They fancy themselves a contemporary Confucius or Socrates, blessed with deep understanding of the human condition that lesser minds lack. Yet when you truly pay attention to the sage wannabe's speeches, their supposed wisdom reveals itself to be superficial platitudes at best, nonsense at worst. Their advice proves shallow, derivative, and misapplied upon closer examination. The sage wannabe mistakes making vague statements of supposed truth for actual wisdom. In conversation, the sage wannabe eagerly dispenses their hand-me-down proverbs and mystic-sounding vagaries without prompting, hoping to dazzle listeners with their aura of authority and insight. But look past the mystical presentation, and their words provide little concrete value. The sage wannabe spouts pseudo-profundities copied from fortune cookies, not original revelation drawn from direct experience. They lack the discernment to separate the wheat from the chaff when cobbling together their spiritual hand-me-downs. When challenged, the sage wannabe obscures their lack of substance with yet more needless complexity and mystification. Like the charlatans of old, they use smoke and mirrors to hide their absence of practical wisdom. They play guru without demonstrating real understanding. As an astute observer of human nature, do not let yourself get drawn in by the sage wannabe's mystical aura. Listen closely and politely ask them to move beyond vague truisms to specific, concrete examples and applications of their supposed wisdom. How have they directly embodied the principles they preach? Does their guidance lead to positive real-world outcomes? Or is it untested idealism? Examine the fruits of their advice, not just the flowery packaging. True wisdom reveals itself through lived experience, not pretentious proverbs. Insight comes from patiently walking the path ourselves, listening, collaborating, and remaining open to learning, not merely posing as a talking head. Seek out mentors who humbly share from hard-won experience, not those pretending to float above it all. A genuine sage does not need to advertise their wisdom. It speaks for itself in the positive impact it creates. Number 12. The fair weather friend. The fair weather friend is by your side when the sun is shining, but nowhere to be found when dark clouds roll in. They only want to participate in the fun times, not support you through challenges. When life is going smoothly, the fair weather friend enjoys partaking as if they are your closest confidant. But at the first sign of real adversity, they suddenly become unavailable. Their loyalty disappears when it's truly needed. The fair weather friend is happy to celebrate your victories and successes when you are on top. But they offer weak excuses rather than empathy when tragedy strikes or you need their help. Don't make the mistake of thinking the fair weather friend's good times companionship indicates true friendship. Judge them by their commitment and care during crisis, not flattery during celebrations. Rather than depending on the spurious solidarity of the fair weather friend, forge bonds with those who stick closer than a brother or sister through thick and thin. Friends like that are rare but worth their weight in gold. The fair weather friend's false fellowship should remind you to be the kind of steadfast, loyal companion you seek. Stand by others not just when it's fun, but when it really matters. That integrity nurtures true lifelong fellowship. The fair weather friend is by your side when the sun is shining, but nowhere to be found when dark clouds roll in. They only want to participate in the fun times, not support you through challenges. When life is going smoothly, the fair weather friend enjoys partaking as if they are your closest confidant. But at the first sign of real adversity, they suddenly become unavailable. Their loyalty disappears when it's truly needed. The fair weather friend is happy to celebrate your victories and successes when you are on top. But they offer weak excuses rather than empathy when tragedy strikes or you need their help. Don't make the mistake of thinking the fair weather friend's good times companionship indicates true friendship. Judge them by their commitment and care during crisis, not flattery during celebrations. Rather than depending on the spurious solidarity of the fair-weather friend, forge bonds with those who stick closer than a brother or sister through thick and thin. Friends like that are rare but worth their weight in gold. The fair-weather friend's false fellowship should remind you to be the kind of steadfast, loyal companion you seek. Stand by others not just when it's fun but when it really matters. That integrity nurtures true lifelong fellowship. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this discussion of how to deal with difficult personality types through the lens of Stoic philosophy to be interesting and helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support really helps us to keep making more content like this to inspire personal growth and wisdom in daily life. I appreciate you choosing to spend part of your day with me today. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember that the power lies within you, not outside events. The way we respond matters more than what happens to us. Thank you again all for watching, and may you all find peace and serenity in the Stoic ways.